Discovery, and welcome to WDMS. I'm Haley.
And I'm Sophia.
Today is Tuesday, August 27th. Please join us for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's lunches: grilled cheese sandwich, soft shell chicken tacos, Philly beef pretzel wedge, sliced carrots, Southwest slaw, and applesauce.
Now to Mrs. Weaver.
Okay, I am Mrs. Weaver. I am Mrs. Weaver, and I am one of the teachers that helps put together with some parents and administrators 3-Book 1 School every year. If you're in 7th or 8th grade, you may be familiar with this, but for the 6th graders, just a little bit of background information. This is actually our 10th year of doing this. Originally, we started out with just one book, and everybody read the same one, but now we have a lot more student input into the process. So last year, at the end of the year, we asked all of the students to give us ideas that they thought would be good for this year's event, and we had a list of 18 books at the end of the year. And so we have teachers and parents that pre-read and gave feedback just to make sure that they were appropriate. And we are now down to a little bit smaller list, and we're going to break it down by genres and do some voting to help narrow down the choices. So in just a second, if it's not there already, you're going to see a link on the screen, and you're going to need to open your Chromebook. Today's category that we're looking at is dystopia and sci-fi. And so you're going to need to log in, and you may have to try a couple times because I don't know if the letter after the Q is a lowercase l or a capital I. I didn't double check that. So if one doesn't work, try the other one. These are the books that you're going to be choosing from, and we don't give you the name of the book yet, and we don't give you the character names because we don't want you to be able to guess. We want you to pick the book that sounds most interesting. So if you had to read one of these books, if you were being forced to, or if you wanted to, which one would be your top choice? That's the one that you are voting for today. So book number 1 is about Tess, and Tess lives in what is left of the United States, in one of many small villages. She hopes to be one of the few to qualify to go to the university in the capital city, and she's thrilled when she is actually selected. Her family's proud, but not really thrilled for her, and she doesn't understand why. Once she gets there, she does find out. Being selected doesn't actually get you into the university, it just gets you entered into a life or death competition to fight for one of the spots at the university. So she has to try and figure out who her real friends are, who her allies are, and how she can survive the competition to actually get her place at the university. So that's book 1. Book 2 is about 2 people, and I use the same names for all the characters here. So book 2 is about Ross and Tess, and they live in a world that is controlled by a supercomputer. And technology is advanced to the point where people can live forever, and they don't need much that isn't supplied by the governing computer. To prevent the world population from getting too large, a group of individuals that are not governed by the computer are trained and given the task of selecting those who have reached the end of their lives. One of the members of this group selects both Ross and Tess to be trained as his apprentices. And as he begins to train them on how to do the job honorably, he is suddenly killed in a very permanent way. Ross and Tess are then split up to be trained by very different trainers, one of whom has very good motives for wanting to train, and the other who has some ulterior motives. And then they have to compete to determine which one of them actually gets the spot. So who will win? Which one is destined to keep the current system from completely falling into chaos? Okay, next book, book 3. In this book, we have a sci-fi version of Earth where there's only a handful of countries. Most are the size of entire continents. And individuals with cybernetic implants are considered a subgroup of regular humans. Tess is little more than a slave to her adopted family's home until a prince of her realm notices her at the market. About the same time, she discovers a message that leads her to believe that the queen of the lunar colony which is trying to win the hand of the prince, may have a plan to conquer all of Earth. Since she's a cyborg, she wants to not draw attention to herself, and she wants to avoid her destiny. But she realizes she may be the only one who can stop the queen's plans. So then she comes up with some questions. Will anybody actually listen to her because she's a cyborg? And if so, can she escape the queen's notice and save Earth? Okay, choice number 4. Ross has always been really good at reading people and at winning virtual reality games. Although he's never had a permanent home and has trouble finding locations to log on to attend his virtual school because he and his dad move around so much, he isn't bothered by that life, at least not much. Then he meets a beautiful girl in his online class, and when he meets her again in a VR competition for his first ever date, he is instead offered a place at an elite training academy for teens learning to become virtual pilots in the U.S.-India alliance in a space battle against the Russian-Chinese ships, which is the version of World War III. Even though his dad isn't thrilled, Ross accepts the position. Once there, can he figure out what they really expect of him? Can he find friends and keep away from enemies long enough to become a valuable member of the team? Can he actually even survive the training? And book 5. Ross is one of 10 kids recruited from around the world to travel to a new planet and help a major corporation acquire a valuable substance located on that planet. One that has human-like species, the planet, has human-like species that tend to kill all adults on sight. But it reveres younger children. So Ross agrees to go because it's the only way to save his mom. The money that they offer him and the first-class medical treatment that they offer to the family he's leaving behind for 3 years may be her only chance. Once he's on his way to the new planet, though, he learns that the long trip will be a series of competitions between the 10 children to determine which 8 will actually be selected for the mission. And if not, then he will be sent back to Earth and lose the money and some of the medical treatment. So can he lock in his place? Can he determine who his real friends are among the 10? Can he find out what the major corporation is hiding from all of them before it's too late? Okay, so again, you got 5 books to choose from today. We're just narrowing down the list. You're not picking this one for sure, but of the 5, which one sounds most interesting to you? So there's short summaries on the website. You can read through those, pick, and then hit submit down at the bottom of the survey. And when you're done, close up your Chromebooks and listen to the announcements. And I'll be back later in the week with some more choices. Thanks.
Today's lunch is grilled cheese sandwich, soft shell chicken tacos, Philly beef pretzel witch, sliced carrots, Southwest slaw, and applesauce.
Today's events in the afternoon, there will be 7th and 8th grade volleyball practice, cross-country practice, robotic club, 7th grade football versus Northridge, 7th and 8th volleyball at Northwood, and 8th grade football at Northridge.
Yearbook. Yearbook pre-sales start today. You'll receive a flyer, but the flyer will also be posted to Canvas for your parents to see. The yearbook sale, the yearbook on sale through September 27th. If you procrastinate, the price of the yearbook will increase, so order your yearbook online tonight.
Students, don't forget to check your email each day. This is an important habit to get into. Now to the principals.
Good morning, Discovery. We have a long announcement message today, so thank you for being so patient with us as we share a lot of information with you. But today we're going to continue on with our student handbook, and we want to talk to you about a few things. The first thing is the use of your Chromebook. And am I on this one? Yeah. Okay. And so we want to tell you a new rule this year. If you don't have your Chromebook in its bump case, even if you bought insurance, if something happens to your Chromebook, it is not covered this year if it's not in the bump case. So you must keep it in the bump case at all times. Another thing that you need to remember is never share your password with anyone at school, even if they're your best friend. You cannot share your password information. That is private. There have been instances where friends have gotten on other friends' Chromebooks and shared information or sent an email that wasn't even from the person whose Chromebook that it was, and they are held responsible for that. So you have to keep that password private and not share it with anyone except your parents. Also, boys and girls, cyberbullying is prohibited. I'm sure you've heard that word, cyberbullying. And at PHM and every school in the state of Indiana, we are required to investigate cyberbullying even if it occurs outside of the school day. So if someone comes to school the next day because at 8 o'clock last night, someone sent something on social media that was inappropriate or considered to be bullying or harassment, we have to investigate that and hold you accountable for that. So never ever do that. Do not feel like you're safe just because you're within the confines of your own home, because we still are liable for that, and so therefore so are you. All right.
And I always go back to, if it's not something you would want your grandparent or your parent to read that you've put out there on social media, then don't say it and don't write it. And that includes also on your Chromebook, on Google Docs, making sure that you're doing your own personal best and your own personal work because you're using school equipment. So good reminders to everyone. You'll be going through some internet safety lessons with your social studies teachers, students, just like we did last year, 7th and 8th grade. You'll also be having some internet safety training lessons with guidance counselors as well here as we start out the school year. So just really good reminders for us all. Thanks, Mrs. Masterson.
One more reminder too with that. Remember when you make your music selections, think about the music that you're listening to. Is it something that if you took your headphones out would be appropriate for school? If it's not, you should not be listening to it here. We have had calls from the technology department. People are watching via Hapara, and they can see what you're listening to and they can see those lyrics. So you do need to be aware of appropriate music selections.
Which also reminds me of our no gaming policy as well on the Chromebooks and everything that you do. We're here for school. We're here to do our learning here at school, so you should be on learning sites at all times. And so those will be monitored closely, not only by your teacher, but also by administration here on Securely and Hapara here at the school. Students, just a reminder about clubs. The club list will be coming out here at Discovery about the middle of September. We'll make sure that we have that posted for everyone and available to you to see and view on Canvas. The intramural list is also included on that, so that's exciting. We'll have a lot of clubs that will meet before school. Some will meet after school as well. So just some reminders about that. Let's talk a little bit about attendance. We do want you to be here each and every day as much as possible. Obviously, illness happens on occasion or doctor appointments and so forth. Students, it's just really, really important that you make sure that you have a parent call into the main office to make sure that they excuse all of your absences, And our tardy policy is by grade level or by department. Some in the music department are doing it their own way with the tardy policy, so you'll just want to make sure that you check in with your teachers on that. That's in our classroom rules and procedures. And I do believe most tardy policies are starting at the end of this week and into next week after we get through the Labor Day season as well. So just be mindful of getting to class on time. When I walked through the 8th grade hallway, it looked awesome this morning. By 9 o'clock, everybody was moving to class and getting to where they needed to be before that 9:05 bell. And so that is the expectation. We really want everybody in class ready to go before that bell rings.
Do you know what's embarrassing?
What?
Getting dress coded.
Yes, it is.
It is.
It
It's
happens
terrible.
to me all the time.
And I hate to dress code a student. Like, it's not my favorite thing to do at all. But
is
sometimes
embarrassing.
teachers call down and let us know that somebody's attire, and that means what they're wearing, is disruptive to the learning environment. And so in that case, we've had to call parents to bring in clothes or have students change into a different shirt or pair of shorts. So you do need to be aware of that. Avoid the embarrassment of being dress coded. It's uncomfortable for everyone. If you're questioning whether or not what you're wearing is appropriate, it's probably not. So you might want to choose a different outfit so you can avoid that altogether.
If you're thinking you need to bring a second outfit to school in case you get dress coded, not a good idea. You probably will. So just wear the appropriate attire to begin with, and you won't have any problems.
That would be great.
Right?
That would be
So,
great.
Mrs. Masterson, don't bring your second outfits to school, please.
Fine. Okay. I'll work on it.
I'll make sure I don't bring my tank tops.
Yeah, and
I don't want anybody throwing up here at school. Okay, enough about dress code. Hey, we're going to move on to the even more exciting Code of Conduct. Woo! All right.
that is
code
so
of conduct. I
exciting.
know.
Yeah.
Isn't it exciting? Students, I always have said, if you ever are struggling at night to sleep, just pull up the PDF on the PHM website of the student handbook and start reading it, and you will fall right asleep every time.
Exactly.
However, it is important. It is important that we make sure that we understand all of the policies here in the handbook. So one that is very serious that we want to talk about is the harassment of others. Obviously, we all know that harassment and bullying is completely not acceptable here at school. And so I am just going to read what it says in the Code of Conduct verbatim. The making of written or verbal sexual innuendos, suggestive comments, jokes of a sexual nature, sexual propositions, or threats to a fellow student, staff member, or other person associated with the PHM School Corporation or parties, an athletic team member, etc., directing unwelcoming statements, communications, or conduct of a sexual nature to another person is completely not acceptable.
Do you
Go
know what
ahead.
else is not acceptable?
What?
On the opposite of that, and I hope this would never happen, falsely accusing someone of doing something like that is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
And the person, if you want to get someone in trouble and just want to make a false claim, you will be held accountable for that. We take every claim very seriously. So if you happen to call into the bullying hotline or any other way of reporting somebody bothering you when they're actually not, you will be held accountable for that, so don't do
And
that.
that Safe School helpline is there for you to use anonymously. But remember, it's used for very serious matters. And so we expect you to email us or use an Aim High Bully report that you can find at the guidance office or up by the library if you want to fill out a form. While you're here at school, students, that's a very good way is to directly get a hold of a guidance counselor or administrator via email. We're here to support, we're here to help in any kind of situation that might come your way.
Absolutely.
And once again, it just goes back to what we talked about last Friday about valuing and respecting our diversity here at Discovery. We have a lot of different languages spoken in our building, a lot of people from all over the world that we get the opportunity to share our time with here and learn from while we're here at Discovery. And so we need to be respectful of everyone and make sure that we're all making a difference with one another.
That's a really good idea, Mr.
Yep.
Kaufman.
All right. You want to go on to the next thing?
Yes,
things
I think
here?
so. So, boys and girls, when you come to school at Discovery, you may not bring medications to administer to yourself, even if it's just Tylenol and you have a headache. At home, you might have access to that, but here at school, the nurse has to administer that to you. So you can't bring headache medicine, any other medicines to school unless the nurse, you check them in with the nurse, and she can distribute those to you. Also, you may not have vaping here at school. If anyone is caught vaping, it is actually immediate suspension.
Anyone with the materials brought into the building at all, it's immediate suspension. It is unsafe. Our health teachers will be talking especially to our 7th and 8th grade teachers about that whole situation, but it is a serious concern, an epidemic in our country right now, and there has been serious lung damage that has occurred with teenage students who have tried this.
Yes,
so it's very unsafe.
It has not been on the market very long, and we are finding that people who thought it was safe, they're in the hospital.
Yes.
Teenagers, adults, they're facing life-threatening.
Yeah, with irreplaceable lung damage. So it's just a really sad situation.
So don't do it, and especially don't do it here at school.
Exactly. I want to go back one page, but you don't need to. I'll just, real quick, there's one full page here about using an object as a weapon. And in summary, students, I just want to let you know that any item that could be considered a weapon is clearly not to be brought to school. This includes toys that could appear to be a weapon. This includes a homemade creation that you've come up with that you bring to school, anything like that. Anything that would be considered unsafe is a suspendable offense and clearly not to be brought to school. Students, you have always done a great job of using your voice when something is unsafe, or when you see something, you say something, and that's what we appreciate. So continue to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
One last thing, and I hate to continue this, but there's so many important things that kids need to know.
Right.
And that's about sexting. And boys and girls, that's inappropriate use of technology. And again, if you do that at home and you think, oh, I'm just going to send this photograph or this message or picture to someone else, you're held responsible for that. And not only are we obliged to investigate that, it's a felony. It's against the law. You could face criminal charges for stuff like that. So please do not get yourself in a situation where you have shared inappropriate information.
In fact, it's 3 counts of felony: possessing, providing, and sharing, okay? Now, if somebody sends you something inappropriate, students, and you are in possession of it, as long as you immediately go to an adult with that information, you are safe, you are not guilty, you are fine. And so that's what we want to encourage you to do. If something inappropriate comes across your social media or someone takes an inappropriate picture, talk to a parent at home, talk to the nearest adult if that were to happen, and get help.
So if somebody sent me an inappropriate picture and I brought it to you, I wouldn't be in trouble.
Correct.
But if I shared it with somebody else,
Then that's an issue.
okay, all right,
Make sense?
yeah.
All right. And of course, failing or refusing to comply with the directions of an adult supervising a class or school activity is not acceptable. We need to always make sure that we're good listeners and that we abide by the school rules. That's a part of our code of conduct. And if we have a student who's deciding not to listen repeatedly, then that can be grounds for disciplinary action. Want to remind students also about about academic honesty, that cheating on an academic assignment such as a test or homework or knowingly assisting another student is called academic dishonesty. And so there are steps and consequences for that behavior as well. Since we've gone to the Chromebook, at times I feel like that has become a little bit easier for students to do. So be very, very careful about that. I know that your teachers will have good conversations with you in class about academic honesty and about what that looks like.
Yeah.
So just make sure that you're following all of that. Well, we did know that we were going to spend most of read time today talking about the rules, and I think that we've gotten through the whole code of conduct. Round of applause.
Yay!
Amen. We made it.
We made it.
We
You
made
it.
You made it,
Thank
guys,
you.
through all of our at you conversation today. So I know that was a lot to take in. But one other thing here, just before we turn it back over here, and Reed is almost finished. Just a reminder to our 6th graders that everything that you bring to school needs to be locked up tight in your locker. We did have a few students who had bulging backpacks yesterday, and it ended up, I think, just leaving them out on the floor in the hallway rather than putting them away in the locker. So, just be mindful, students. Everything that you bring to school needs to be placed in that locker and locked up.
One
So,
side note, do
yeah.
not ever give your combination to your
Yes.
friends. If you do that and your friends get in your locker, then they could take your things, and that's on you. You cannot share your combination.
Yeah.
If you are stuck and you can't get in your locker, have an adult try it for you or watch you do it to make sure that you're trying it yourself, but don't give your
Good
combination
point.
out.
And really, students have done a good job with that, and for the most part haven't shared their combinations. And as long as you don't do that, you won't have any problems. So,
Good.
Okay. So everybody have an awesome, terrific Tuesday.
Have the
Thank
best
you
day
for your
ever.
good attention. And now let's take it back to our young ladies at the desk. I got to hand over my mic.
Thank you, principals.
All right. Have a good day, Discovery. Bye.